This is a story about one of my best friends, Sam. Last summer, Sam's life took an unexpected twist on his way home from work. He didn't have a driver's license, so he stuck to his trusty bicycle for the daily commute. The grind of working at a bustling restaurant, where he often stayed late into the night, made him appreciate his after-work escape even more. The route home was just a stone's throw from his workplace, with a creepy underground tunnel thrown into the mix, a place infamous for its spooky tales. Now, Sam wasn't one to spook easily, so he pedaled through that tunnel day in and day out. That was until that fateful evening when he found himself working later than usual. When he went to leave, his bike's front and rear tires were mysteriously punctured. Frustrated but not wanting to tempt fate, he decided to walk his bike home, grumbling about the bad luck. Unbeknownst to him, the temperature seemed to drop as he approached the tunnel's entrance. As he entered the tunnel on foot, it hit him that it felt much longer than it did on his bike. A shiver crept down his spine. Ahead, a woman on a bicycle came into view, giving him some comfort that he wasn't alone in this late-night subway venture. However, when she passed him and noticed him holding his bike, her face turned to surprise. Sam couldn't help but feel a bit miffed, though he continued on his way, wondering just how far the tunnel's exit on the other side could be. But just as he was contemplating this, a screech of brakes and a loud crash echoed from behind. He jumped out of his skin and broke into a cold sweat. The noise seemed to come from where the woman had been. Was she involved in an accident? Sam left his bike on the side and rushed back, only to find the tunnel empty, devoid of the woman or any evidence of the collision. Totally baffled, he tried to pass it off as fatigue-induced hallucinations. Sam picked up his bike and continued forward, now feeling a growing unease. He couldn't shake the mystery of the collision and began to pick up the pace. Just as he was about to escape the tunnel and step onto the street, he felt a powerful yank on his hair, pulling him back. A pungent, damp smell hit his nose, leaving him too terrified to look behind. He made a beeline for the exit, heart pounding, and finally made it home safely. But that eerie experience haunted him, leading him to avoid the underground tunnel from then on. Even though he'd long quit that job and no longer needed to go near that place, the memory of that spine-tingling night lingered every time he passed by. This is just another Sam story. Sam works part-time at a gym near his home every Tuesday night. His regular work schedule starts at 6 o'clock and usually lasts until 9:30. He often trains in the gym for about an hour after work, so he often has to go home after 11 p.m. Fortunately, his home is not far from the gym, about a 10-minute drive away. It was a cold winter Tuesday, but despite this, Sam still had an extra workout after work as planned. He used WhatsApp to chat with friends while exercising, so the training time was extended a lot. Finally, he left the gym around 11:45. It was an extremely cold night, especially in a residential area like his home, where there were almost no pedestrians after 9 o'clock. Sam was driving home, and when he reached the intersection of a small road and a main road, he suddenly noticed a person standing on each side of the intersection. They stood on both sides of the road, looking at each other. Actually, Sam wasn't sure if there was actually a person on the left because he only had a quick glance, but he was sure of the person on the right. He remembered that the man on the right was wearing a baseball cap and a military-like jacket with double-breasted buttons, but he could not remember the color of the clothes. He thought it was unusual for the two people to stand at the intersection late at night and look at each other, especially since it was close to midnight. Few people were out, and he didn't see any dogs accompanying them. If they, like Sam, had just come home from work, walking home was not a safe option. Because he was turning left onto the main road at the intersection, he didn't stop but continued driving. However, as he thought about it, he began to feel something was wrong, like he was seeing something creepy. This thought made him even more frightened. During the next 3 minutes of driving, he looked through the rear view mirror more than once in the back seat of the vehicle, fearing that something creepy had sneaked into his car. Finally, he backed into his garage and turned off the engine, but did not dare to get out of the car. Since his house is the last unit in the complex, a long and narrow driveway leads from the garage to the street, with a streetlight in the driveway. Sam had been sitting in the car for 5 minutes, not daring to breathe, staring at the end of the driveway. He didn't know what he was expecting, just to see if someone or something would follow him home, and if so, it would definitely come through the driveway to his house. Those 5 minutes passed long, and finally he decided that waiting was no longer an option, so he got out of the car, closed the garage door, and returned home. Nothing happened after that night, and days passed without anything strange happening. He continued to work at the gym every Tuesday night and work out, sometimes coming home late. At first, he would deliberately bypass that intersection and choose another way home. Gradually, he became bolder and began to choose to pass through that intersection, but nothing like this happened again. This was the first and only horrific incident he encountered in his memory. Although several years had passed, the scene of that night was still vivid in his mind, as if it happened just last night. Here's another story about Sam. Sam used to work part-time as a DoorDash driver. As a university student, the job provided him with the flexibility to earn money while balancing his academic commitments. One night, after his last lecture had concluded, he embarked on his usual late-night delivery shift, fully aware that he had no early classes the following day. Around 11 p.m., Sam received an unusual delivery request. Groceries from a local convenience store to be dropped off at an address located about 15 minutes away. The GPS guided him through the bustling streets of the city, but eventually, the directions led him to a lesser-known road, a dark corridor amidst the city's vibrant lights. Following the digital map, Sam continued on the winding road until he reached the end of a narrow lane. The area was enveloped in a shroud of darkness, with no streetlights illuminating the way. Sam could feel the eerie silence, a stark contrast to the city's usual buzz. The delivery app indicated that he should proceed further down this ominous road. Intrigued and determined, Sam continued carefully, activating his car's high beams to light up the desolate path. As he reached the final turn, the road dwindled into something resembling more of a pedestrian alley than a proper street. Sam double-checked the map on his app, and it clearly suggested that the delivery address was deeper down this route. Squinting into the darkness, Sam noticed a silhouette at the end of the alley. It resembled a residence, yet there was something unsettling about it. He strained his eyes to observe the surroundings and discovered more houses in close proximity. However, the meager light from his headlights cast long shadows, making it challenging to perceive details. Assuming that the house on his GPS was one of the first along the path, Sam parked his car near a single house in a dimly lit cul-de-sac. Up close, he could see that the house was not entirely complete, though the front appeared nearly finished, featuring a door. He shook off the intrigue and reminded himself that his job was to deliver the groceries, not to inspect the state of the houses in the vicinity. After parking, Sam picked up the groceries and made his way to the front door. The silence was palpable, and the house was entirely dark. He placed the bags by the door and began his journey back to the car. However, a flicker of movement among the shadows caught his attention. Sam stopped abruptly, his eyes locked on the darkened corners. The movement ceased just as suddenly as it began. His heartbeat quickened as he hastened his pace, returning to the safety of his car. He started the engine and engaged the high beams. The sudden burst of light illuminated the area, revealing a figure standing precisely where he had seen the movement. It was a man, watching him with an unwavering gaze. The pulse in Sam's temples quickened, his heart pounding as he began reversing. He was so preoccupied with the mysterious figure that he wasn't paying proper attention to the road. Moments later, he felt a violent jolt from the rear tires, followed by another from the front. The car rocked ferociously, but Sam's focus remained locked on the unsettling figure in the distance. His adrenaline surged, and he floored the gas pedal, escaping from the alley onto a broader road. Upon returning to the familiarity of the city, Sam realized his car was behaving erratically, rattling and bumping vigorously. His heart still racing, he pulled over, safely parking on the well-lit streets. With trembling hands, he called the police. An investigation revealed that the delivery address was a fabrication, and the associated DoorDash account was a decoy. Along the alley, the police discovered several large, sharpened objects, likely placed there to immobilize Sam and divert his attention. The intentions of those who had set this elaborate trap remained a mystery, but Sam was grateful that he had narrowly escaped a potentially dangerous situation.